Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson had it all. He was the lovable giant friend that kicked the enemy's butt. But as they say, there's always bigger fish in the sea. For Dwayne, that was none other than his longtime co-star, Vin Diesel. Hollywood's full of stories of egos and rivalry. The feud between The Rock and Vin Diesel is one of Hollywood's most famous rivalries. So sit back and relax as we break down what went down between these two megastars. So, let's get back to where it all started. It's 2011, and Fast 5 is the biggest action movie out there. What seemed like two alpha males within the Fast and Furious franchise soon spiraled into a public spectacle that would dominate tabloid headlines for years. While both men are known for their strong personalities, it was Vin Diesel who exposed what many believe to be the fragile ego of The Rock. Diesel's conflict with The Rock did not develop overnight. For many, the cast of Fast and Furious appeared like a dream come true when Johnson initially signed on. Already a well-known star in the series, Diesel was eager to propel the franchise forward, and The Rock's presence promised more muscle, action, and entertainment value. Everything appeared good at first. August 2016 saw the first public indication of danger when The Rock produced a now famous Instagram post that rocked the Fast franchise and Hollywood at a general level. Referred to his male co-stars as Chicken S and Candy A. Although he omitted names, it was abundantly evident that Diesel was the target. This was very personal for Vin Diesel now. We know The Rock has built his whole career on his larger-than-life persona and muscle-bound reputation. And somehow, Diesel seemed to have discovered a way to undermine The Rock's well-chosen tough guy image by exposing his actions. The Rock's decision to air the dirty laundry on social media was a clear sign of someone whose ego had been bruised. He had to let everyone know he wasn't scared to call out his co-stars, but by doing so, revealed his own sensitivity to criticism, a quality not everyone expected from the Brahma Bull. While The Rock was airing his grievances on Instagram, Diesel played a much more calculated game. Instead of responding with a fiery social media post or a public spat, Diesel decided to take the high road. In interviews, he downplayed any tension between them, but he made sure to subtly manipulate the narrative in his favor. Diesel began talking about how much he had done for the Fast and Furious franchise. It wasn't just about the action. Vin positioned himself as the soul of the franchise, the one who had protected the series from being lost to the sands of time. To Diesel, the Fast and Furious series wasn't just a film franchise, it was a legacy. Then, in 2017, during the filming of The Fate of the Furious, it was clearly evident that the two men were not exactly on the best terms. Diesel was known to have a rather protective attitude towards the Fast and Furious series. After all, it's his baby. Eventually, Diesel started to collide with Johnson, who wasn't used to performing second fiddle. Having been the face of the show for years, Diesel felt Johnson's larger-than-life presence was a slight challenge to his focus, but it was about control rather than anything else. By contrast, Johnson, who only had joined the series in its fifth installment, began to look like an outsider. Diesel's constant assertions that the Fast and Furious franchise was built on heart, family, and commitment to the story only served to undermine The Rock's role in it. Diesel, whether intentionally or not, had turned the tables, making Johnson's involvement seem superficial. The Rock's image as the muscle of the series was being undercut by Diesel's claims of being the emotional and moral backbone of the Fast saga. Another crucial point in this feud came when Diesel explained in a 2021 interview that his approach on set with Johnson was all about tough love. Diesel explained that he was trying to push Johnson to perform at his best, citing that the character of Hobbs needed a certain level of intensity that Johnson hadn't quite brought to the table. This, of course, was one of Diesel's more public justifications for his behavior on set. The implication was that Diesel had to step in and be the one to guide Johnson, a clear way of asserting his superiority as the franchise's leader. But what was really being exposed here wasn't just Diesel's power over the production. It was the fact that Diesel had zero faith in Johnson's ability to perform without him. If Diesel was truly trying to help The Rock, why did it need to be in such a condescending, almost paternalistic way? Why the tough love approach? The larger-than-life wrestler who built his career on confidence and bravado suddenly found himself in a position where he needed to be coddled and pushed into performing better. Diesel's framing of the situation made The Rock look like someone who wasn't strong enough to stand on his own 2 feet without Diesel's guidance. The more Diesel spoke about helping The Rock, the more it felt like an admission of weakness on Johnson's part. The Rock made it plain he would not be returning to the Fast and Furious series. Johnson revealed in an honest interview with The Hollywood Reporter that he was done and that the fate of the Furious would be his last main series appearance. He had not returned, and Johnson's logic was straightforward. He felt leaving was essential for his own personal development, free from conflict Diesel's actions on set had generated. Diesel had spent so much time creating the Fast and Furious world as a brand anchored on family, loyalty, and unity that this was a major setback for him. Diesel had never taken public ownership of his part in the conflict. Rather, he concentrated on his family, keeping up his advocacy of the franchise's scope, surpassing any one actor. But the truth was, Diesel's carefully constructed public image was starting to show cracks. The absence of The Rock meant that the franchise would lose its main appeal, and Diesel had to face the reality that he could run the Fast and Furious franchise alone. Diesel's conception of the franchise as his family started to seem hollow as the world watched his actions drive one of the most famous Hollywood stars out of the picture. In 2021, Diesel, in an almost desperate move, publicly pleaded with The Rock to return to the series. In an Instagram post, Diesel referred to Johnson as his little brother and spoke about his children's affection for him. This was not just a friendly invitation, it was an emotional plea. Diesel wasn't simply asking Johnson to come back for the sake of the franchise, he was calling on their brotherhood to overcome the past. For The Rock, this public display of emotion was yet another attempt at manipulation, as he saw it. He responded by saying that he had already told Diesel privately that he would not be returning, and that Diesel's attempt to use social media to reel him back in was, in his words, manipulative. To make matters worse, The Rock expressed his discomfort with Diesel bringing his children and the tragic death of Paul Walker into the conversation. By doing this, Diesel inadvertently revealed just how much he was willing to exploit personal emotions for the sake of business, exposing his own insecurities and his fear of the franchise losing its star power. After years of back and forth, it seemed that the feud had finally come to an end in 2023, when The Rock made a surprise cameo appearance in Fast X. The moment was enough to send fans into a frenzy, as it was a clear sign that the feud had been buried. Director Louis Leterrier, who helped facilitate the reconciliation, explained that both men had reached a mutual understanding and decided to put the past behind them. However, the public reconciliation didn't come without a price. Diesel had been exposed for his constant attempts to manipulate Johnson into returning, and for using emotional appeals to make it happen. While The Rock's decision to come back to the franchise was a smart move for his career, it was also an acknowledgement that Diesel's earlier attempts to break him had not worked. In the end, The Rock came out on top. He returned on his own terms, and Diesel's fragile ego had been exposed to the world. When we look at the entire drama, it's clear that Vin Diesel didn't just clash with The Rock. He exposed the fragility of Johnson's ego in a way that was both subtle and deliberate. Through calculated public statements, manipulative social media posts, and the careful construction of a narrative that positioned him as the true heart of the Fast and Furious franchise. What do you think, folks? Don't forget to like and subscribe. So what do you think? Who was in the right here, Vin Diesel or The Rock? Make sure to let us know in the comments below. We'll be seeing you soon.